It's 1:30
Okay.
exactly. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining our group today, our sister circle. I see that we have some new faces, so I would like for everyone to introduce themselves and then tell us where they are at, if they don't mind, and maybe just a quick little something about them today. So I'm Stacy Burleson. I'm one of the co-founders of Women in Leadership. I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a returning citizen. I did 6 years in the Department of Corrections in the state of New Mexico. And the reason why we started this group is because we wanted to provide some type of support for the women who are getting out of prison, because we know the difficulties we have faced. And so that's just a little brief. All right, next.
Hi, my name is Carissa McGee. I am also a co-founder of Women in Leadership, and I'm a returning citizen, and I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm gonna pass it over to Holly.
Hello, my name is Holly Escudero, and I'm a returning citizen after 7.5 years in New Mexico. I do now live in Tucson, Arizona, and I guess you would say I'm on the hub team for Women in Leadership. Yay!
Anybody feel free to jump in. Shaleka, I see you're on. I see another young lady on. I can't say your last name. Is it Bloomhofer?
Hi, yeah, I'm Molly Bloomhofer. You can pronounce it however you want. My whole family pronounces it differently, even my siblings. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I work as the sole sustainability person for Central New Mexico Community College. And there are lots of connections that I thought I might have to this group, both personally and in a work-related kind of situation. So I'm just looking to see how I can be a part of what you're all trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Cleva? You want to go next?
Am I just doing an introduction?
Yeah, just a brief introduction, where you're at, just a little bit real quick.
Okay. I'm Quiva Hubbard. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What else would you like to know?
Cleva, what do you do?
So I'm a peer mentor coordinator for the New Mexico Family Advocacy Program. I support parents who have CYFD cases. I do not work with CYFD. I pretty much work with lawyers and social workers. So that is my role. That's my professionalism.
And Cleva is also part of the hub team as well. Shaleka, you still on here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with my video. I'll fix it in a second. But I'm Shaleka Booker. I'm in Texas. I'm from Albuquerque. I'm a co-founder of the Get Along Girls, an anti-bullying organization for girls within the school age range. I'm also an independent business owner as well. So if you guys ever have any questions about that, this is my first time on here. So hi, everybody.
Thank you, Shaleka. Thank you, Shaleka. Anybody that I missed on here?
Aisha.
Hey, Aisha.
Hey, everyone. Sorry, my camera's off just because I'm not looking too good today, but hi, everybody. My name is Aisha Ballou. I'm a program evaluator at the Albuquerque Area Southwest Tribal Epidemiology Center. So the short-term acronym is AZTEC. And so I work a lot with Native American tribes, and right now we're working with the COVID response. But I can relate a lot to this group just because I had several family members who went through the criminal justice system, and just here to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia. Thank you for coming. All right. So before we get started, is there anything you would like to say, Carissa, maybe a little bit about ECHO, because I know Molly wasn't on here the last time, and Shaleka wasn't on here either, neither was Asia.
Absolutely. So everyone, we partnered with an organization called, I'm going to turn my camera off because things are freezing. Okay, but yeah, we partnered with Project ECHO, an organization here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we utilize their model, which uses teleconferencing to move knowledge and not the patient, not the person. And we know that women who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, directly or indirectly, we need to have some safe place to be able to meet, to discuss, to educate, and to empower and uplift one another. So that's why we're using the ECHO model, so that we can connect twice a month through Zoom, and we'll be able to share best practices, and we'll be able to honor their model, which is all teach, all learn. So we know that just because we've experienced certain things, it doesn't make us, you know, the all-time expert of everything in life. So we believe that if you have something to share, it's something that we can learn from. And so that's why the all teach, all learn model is something that we use. We want to hear from you, your experiences. You are the expert of your life, and you have lessons and experiences that you can share with us so that we can learn. And then I just wanted to also share that if we're having any technical difficulties or anything like that, please just turn your camera off, and that'll help the audio part of this. But just a small disclosure as well, please, when you are not speaking, please just mute yourself. You can do that by pressing the left microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, or you can press *6 if you are on the phone. So yeah, and that's about it.
Okay, we did just have someone else join if they would like to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Gallegos. What more do I have to say, or?
You could just tell us a little bit about you.
So I have my CPSW. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a parent mentor for the New Mexico Family Advocacy Program. I've completed, probation of 6 years successfully. I have some experience in incarceration. Being incarcerated, and also I used to work for the Department of Corrections when I was straight out of high school.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing now, is giving back to my community.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the reason why we want to start Women in Leadership is because for women to have some extra support upon release from getting out of prison, we feel like that peer connection is what that we all need. We know that the women that are still in prison, or even the young women that are getting in trouble, the women that are in the detention centers, we want to try to be some mentors for them. We want to try to provide them some type of support groups that they don't go down that path or continue to go down that path. I want to start this group because when I got out of prison, there really were no resources for me. It has been very difficult for me since I got out. And so I wanted to try to just provide the support. And everything that I have built, that we are building Women in Leadership around, is all the things that I need. So even I don't have all the answers. So starting this group helps me as well. It gives me the support that I've been lacking. So that's one of the reasons why I want to start it. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go to a PowerPoint, and then I want to talk a little bit about the incarceration in this state, the statistics a little bit, and a little bit about the youth. And then you guys feel free to jump in. I'll be asking questions, suggestions, so we can brainstorm and try to come up with some solutions. All right. Is that all right with everybody? All right. You want to go ahead and pull it up? You pulling it up, Carissa? All right, here we go.
Is it slow? Can you guys see that?
Yeah, it just came. Yeah, it's moving slow. Okay, so how incarceration impacts women, by me, Stacy Burleson, a CPSW. Q. Oh. Okay, all right. How incarceration impacts women. So I did put a little PowerPoint together. Carissa helped me out. All right, go ahead. Next. We have no disclosures. We are not making money off of this, so. All right, so let's talk a little bit about incarceration in the United States. Trends in U.S. corrections. So, well, I barely could see this. Since the 1920s, to up until now, do you guys see how up until this stat goes into 2017? Do you guys see how everything rose from ever since the 1920s up until now? Do you guys see that? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
In the 80s, private prisons have spread in the U.S. Since the 80s, they started developing their own private prisons. And then from 2000 to 2017, the private prison population increased by 47% in America. And why do y'all think this is? What do y'all think about these private prisons? What's y'all take on it? Because I know the women in New Mexico, all of us that went to prison in New Mexico, we went to a private prison. And then some of you guys went to a city prison. So what do you guys think about that?
I never went to prison before. Sorry, this is Aisha. I never went to prison, but I see such an exponential trend in the upward tick of the number of people in corrections. And, you know, to me, I think that it's something that we need to pay attention to. And obviously these prisons are making money off of this. So this is really staggering to me. Right.
And one thing that I wanted to take notice about this particular thing is the private prison in New Mexico. There were a couple private men prisons, but there was only one private prison for women. And so when we were in that private prison, there were certain things that we couldn't get that the men could get. And then we probably could tie this a little into people who are still in their childbearing years. Like, for instance, we had to order the shoes that they had, which men could order, you know, certain kind of shoes. Families could send them shoes. And so what do you guys think about that when it comes to a woman who can still have a child when they're walking on concrete for several years? Do you guys think that has an effect on a woman's childbirth, birthing years, or it doesn't affect it?
I think most definitely. I mean, the strain on the back, is that what you're talking about? Like physical? Yeah. And
yes.
I mean, definitely. Just laying on that hard bunk or the environment. The environment is very depressing. The concrete is cold, it's hard. And you know, you don't get proper shoes, you don't get insoles. There's a lot that pregnant women have to deal with while they're dealing with that. Just being pregnant, but then they're in an environment where there's no type of support, no type of, you know, here's a little help to get you through the day. And it's just, you know what I mean? It's crazy. The seating, look how the benches were. We had plastic seating with no cushion. You know, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm flat in the back. So I can only imagine, you know, how a pregnant woman look. Maybe how she feel, her hips, you know, I don't got no butt. My hips was hurting, so I can only imagine her carrying that weight. Don't start, Shalika. Her carrying that weight, and her body is just sitting on that plastic for so long, and then standing up on that concrete, you know?
Yeah, especially if you're doing a good length amount of time, because I don't think women, I don't even know if people realize that or can correlate that together, that a woman should not be walking on steel concrete for a length amount of time and not have the proper shoes, you know, the proper things that she needs to have, like you said, to have to sit on that hard steel. So I don't know if anybody has like linked that together. You know, there's some women that have went to prison that may not even be able to have kids, and that may be one of the reasons, or, you know, it may not be, but I definitely think that's something that, you know, we need to start looking in, because I always wonder why is it that, you know, the men could, you know, get special shoes and this and that, and we couldn't. So if anybody did, has anything else
this is Jessamine. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this was my take on it when I was in there. Aside from shoes and all that stuff, like childbearing years, the women, the nutrition in there is horrific. Like, you guys know, we didn't get milk at CCA. We didn't get, you know, there's places they have a garden growing, and they didn't let us do that even. Vitamins aren't available. You know, proper nutrition for the baby and the woman is just slim to none.
You're definitely right about that. Thank you. Did you say Jessamine? Is that
Yeah.
Jessamine? Hi,
yeah.
Jessamine.
Hi. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. So U.S. prison population in 2016. 2.2 million Americans have been incarcerated, which means for every 100,000 people, there are 655 that are currently inmates. Prisons, parole, and probation operations generate a 81 billion annual cost to U.S. taxpayers. And police court costs, bail bond fees, and prison phone generates another 100 billion in costs that are paid by individuals. Wow, just do you guys see the money that they're getting? That's $181 billion right there. That was in 2016.
Stacey, I just want to say, I think that that's scary only because of the climate that we're in right now. I'm sorry, this is Carissa. The climate that we're in right now, knowing that we're going through a pandemic and we didn't have money for the proper protective equipment for our medical people. Our schools were in chaos because we didn't have the money or the funds to do adequate at-home schooling. We've had all these other crises happening during this time, and to know that $181 billion was spent on just the prison population in 2016, like that, that's a huge red flag. Like, we should be investing our money in other places so that we wouldn't maybe have such a big prison population. So I think that right now, this is a really good time for us to be aware of where our money, our taxpaying dollars are going, so that we can make some changes to our legislature and to our Congress. We should be able to stand up and fight for that, because I personally would rather see $181 billion going back into schools and youth and healthcare and other things outside of locking people up. But that's my personal.
I mean, I definitely agree with that one. Anybody else have any take on this one right here? I mean, because if you look at this is a staggering number. I mean, if you look at 81 billion in the prisons and parole and probation, and when I I got out of prison in 2016, and that's how much went in 2016. Like, wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the number right there.
I think that they should.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just think that they should definitely look into investing into rehab centers and stuff like that, because I think the underlying issue with most people that are in prison and incarcerated is drugs and alcohol.
I definitely agree with that. Anybody else have anything on that?
No, I definitely agree. This is Aisha. I think that, if we funnel this money towards infrastructure, like Carissa mentioned, schools, healthcare, even rehab centers, I mean, all these people don't have to be in prison in the first place. We're kind of nipping the bud of the, I mean, I think this is awful, and we could be preventing this in the first place. I think this is staggering.
Oh yeah, most definitely, Asia, most definitely. Hi, Vicky. I think Vicky, did you want to say something?
Hello, Stacy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm just glad to join in the group and just kind of getting, listening to everybody's impact on prison. My daughter was incarcerated. I just think it's a beautiful thing that you guys are doing, but I was just kind of listening in and seeing what you guys were talking about and stuff. Hello.
Yeah, I hear you, Vicky. This is
Carissa.
Carissa.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm Shaleka's mother, by the way. I'm Shaleka Booker's mother.
Oh, okay. Welcome. Yeah, no, awesome.
Thank you.
I don't know what's going on with Stacy. She was just there. Maybe she might have frozen.
No.
Can you guys hear me?
Stacy? Yes. So maybe we've lost her. I don't know what's going on, but welcome, and that's awesome. Yeah, we're just barely getting started into this, and we're talking about money and how much we actually invest in our prison population.
Okay.
And so until Stacy comes back, I'll continue on with the presentation. Okay, so We also know that, we're looking at the grand scheme of things, how much in the US for all of incarceration, but let's start narrowing it down. We see women rates of incarceration continue to double in the US. So, we try and track around the same time frame. So from the 80s till 2016, we can see that the rise in women's incarceration has grown exponentially. It is actually extremely disheartening to see how much growth has happened in that time span. And I mean, what I can gather from this, because data, it sometimes paints a funny picture. Sometimes it might look a certain way. People can influence it to look a different way. But ultimately, what we see here is that in a span of about 40 years, we have grown from 26,000 to 200,000. That is something that cannot be just swept under the rug, because that's essentially saying that in a 40-year span, somehow miraculously women just went crazy or something, or we turned into criminals, or we somehow, it's painting this picture that we are something that we're not, like we're criminals, and that it happened within 40 years. So I'm really upset about this number, because I know I was one of those women who were incarcerated during this time. And I think that everybody on the phone right now on this has been impacted during this time by the criminal justice system. So we're a part of that. And I don't feel that we're any different than the women before the 80s. And I don't feel like we're any different other than the fact that we have now been targeted. And so that's what these numbers scream out to me. And it's upsetting, now that we've learned how much private prisons started in the 80s. Private prisons started really ramping up their ownership in America. And then now we see all these numbers grow. There is a direct correlation between private prisons taking off in America and our incarceration levels going up so high. And now we're at a place where $100 billion a year, or in 2016, was given to this, to the criminal justice system and the areas around it. So it's like a no-brainer for me personally to tie these two numbers together and say that private prisons, the profit for prison, definitely contributed to a higher rate of incarceration for women. I believe Stacy joined us. Stacy, can you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would agree. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
And also, we know it's a direct, we're targeted, because if we look at the amount of women that are being released each year, I mean, what is this amount of women arrested in 2016 in prisons and jail, and they only release 15 women a year. So where are they? Where are we? Like, what is going on? And so we definitely know that there is a correlation with locking women up with these private prisons. They're locking women up for drug crimes and property crimes. And if there's a property crime, it's always going to lead back to the drugs, right? So you got to address the drugs. And so we all know, we all been in prison, and we know that they don't address that. So what is it that we could do to help these young ladies that are coming behind us, that are being easily influenced, that are trying this marijuana, trying this spice, just trying whatever, because a lot of these girls are getting hooked on into these relationships. So that may be something we want to talk about, because in New Mexico, the female inmate population is on the rise. So in New Mexico, females comprise approximately 10.8% of the total inmate population. New Mexico has a higher female inmate population than all states' female inmate population of 7.5%. And if you guys look at the graph for the jails in 2015, there was 1,079 women in jail. And in 2017, there was 767. There's more women in jail than there are in prison. So what do you guys think is up with this number? And why do you guys think it's like that? So are they bringing them in jail, just holding them in there, not taking them to court? Well, we know they're not getting them help. So how is it that there's more women in jail than in prison? I mean, they're running their jails like they're running a prison. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. The jail is basically like a prison. Unmute yourself, Shaleka.
Okay. I just kind of have a little bit of a theory. Maybe it's lack of legal representation and resources. Because when you're in jail, we don't really, like, we have that little quickness of not even like a law library or anything. People don't have the resources. You can't get in touch with your public defenders. Most people do have public defenders. What's another one? So I guess it would be adding more resources into the jail to help them get out, because a lot of them are petty crimes. Most people want to set out that 10-day wait. And then with the petty crime, you'll have somebody sitting in there for 30 days when with the person who does have legal representation or the proper legal representation, they're out in 8 hours. So maybe looking into providing more resources to the women that are in the actual jails.
And when you say petty crimes, so what do you think about this? So if we have people going there on petty crimes, waiting to get out, they sit out the 10 days, 30 days, whatever, and they get right out. And this person that may be battling drug addiction or alcohol addiction or whatever the addiction may be, and they'll be like, okay, well, whatever. So if I commit a crime, as long as it's a small crime, do you think people are thinking like this? Well, if I go to jail, I'm going to be out in such and such days, because no one's addressing the drug addiction, not the jail, not the PO, not the person. But when you're in your addiction, you're always going to be trying to manipulate this and that, because you got to feed that addiction. So it may not even be a manipulation to them. They may just be like, whatever, I gotta, they may not, their intention may not to be on purposely go commit the crime, but they got to feed that habit. And so they know that they're going to get right out. So you think that could be some mind frame of people as well? Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Definitely that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Justin. I do believe that when they first come in, the little questionnaire that they give you, have you used drugs in the past, whatever. I believe that maybe if they started targeting those people and giving them like a quick rehab for the time that they are in, you know how we had it was pod F5, I think it was at MDC, where it was for alcohol. Was it? Yeah, it was for like the alcohol program that they had at MDC, but they never had anything for drugs. Those the day room floor people, whenever they're on the day room floor, they're kicking and all of that, they go through that little process. They should immediately be given a resource then, instead of just, okay, we'll give them methadone or give them the Suboxone or whatever the cases are. They need that resource right then and there in the intake process of it. And then I believe if they would do that or separate them from general population, because we all know that the jails are plagued with drugs too. So if you're able to help them with that while they're incarcerated, waiting that time, then I believe less women would come back, because if they're still into their addiction and they're not wanting to come out, who's going to want to sit all of that time out? And it would kind of stop them coming back and forth and back and forth if you keep them separated and just kind of push the resources on them and that initial intake process.
I agree. I agree with that, most certainly. What did you have, Jessamine?
I was just gonna say, like, Shalika had her theory or whatever. I have a theory too, like, as to why there's so many women now incarcerated and stuff, and becoming more and more so, is a lot to do with, sorry, I'm at the gym, the men. Back in the day, a woman was staying at home with the children, and the man went out and got the money and did whatever he did. Now, a lot of men don't stick around, and these women are in their addiction, and they have to support these kids in their addiction, so therefore they're heading out to go do the crimes because they have to go get the money. And again, it's the addiction that leads them there. So, I don't know, I just, I'm all for them making more programs for women and better rehabs, like a better, like, if they could do a Delancey Street, but let the mentally ill go there, ones that are on medications, because that's the thing. That program's really good, but they don't let you take your medication or integrate the kids and all that stuff for the first year. So that's not always, I don't think, a good thing. I just wish there was better programs out there, and I think that would really help. I know it would have helped me. If I could have got into Delancey Street, I probably wouldn't have wound up in prison.
Oh, wow, Jessamine. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, Stacy, it's Holly.
Go ahead, Holly.
So I like Jessamine. I really like what you said there, because Arizona has now got, it's called the Haven. And so now what they're doing, the Haven used to be just a female rehab center, but they've kind of switched their gear. They're still all females, but what they've done is people that are getting picked up as, we say, petty crimes, people that, you know, like Jessamine said, the guys are gone, the women are having to take care of kids and support their, you know, whatever their addiction may be. What the Haven has done now is stepped up with the probation officers, with the court systems here in Arizona, in Tucson actually, and they are saying, look, you're sending all these women to prison for these crimes that they shouldn't be sent to quote unquote prison for. They need rehab. Get them through the court systems and then give them to us. Let us try to rehabilitate them along with their children. So see, there used to be a 6-month waiting period. Now there's not. So if I got arrested today and I've got 2 young kids, I'm going to be, by the end of this week, I'm going to be in the Haven with my 2 young kids, getting my addiction taken care of. My kids are getting taken care of at the same time to keep me from going to prison. So that's one thing that Arizona is switching gears on, and I'm really glad they're doing that, because you know I work in the mental health field out here. I also do intense outpatient treatment for people that are addicted to any substance, and I do go to the Haven and speak to the women. I've gone there a couple times because myself I've been incarcerated for almost 8 years in New Mexico. So I feel like programs like that, if they could switch their gears to be more tailored to women, it would be more beneficial.
I think that it's also important to think about the rural areas. Albuquerque is one of the fortunate cities that has resources like these things that you're talking about. But like Clovis, Hobbs, you know, those small towns, women were going into the jail because they need somewhere to stay, or they're trying to run away from a domestic violence situation. And I was one of those women that, just like Jessamine said, you know, I was out there doing this and doing that because in a relationship, that was my role. But then I knew that once I got out the jail, I was going to have to answer for the loss that I had caused. And so I decided to stay in there until he calmed down. I was like, I ain't going to bind down. But I mean, how many women actually go through that? How many women put themselves in that position in order to be housed or to get away from a situation that they're unhealthy in? So, I mean, like Shaleka said, having some type of intervention at the beginning and not after release, you know, also having some type of assessment that is given, not only just about addiction or substance use, but also your safety or your housing situation. Look how many women is out there like committing these petty crimes or shoplifting for kids that's living with their parents, and they trying to provide for them but the best way they know how, and that's stealing. You know what I mean? If you think about TANF, you're only getting $310 for 3 kids. And so, sorry guys, I'm fixing my screen door. So after that, what do you do? Especially when it's school time. And so these petty crimes add up, and so they're sentenced to prison, but there was no intervention in jail. Also, I mean, if they start harm reduction in the jail, as far as not only just the methadone and the Suboxones, but smaller things like how can you grocery shop? You know what I mean? How can you cook and make it stretch? Or how do you clean up your house? You know how many women that do not know how to wash clothes? And so what do? They go out and they steal more. And so now they have a house full of clothes that's dirty in a pile, and then they get a CYFD call because their house is dirty. So then they pick up a case from CYFD. Now they got a small child neglect case, and then they incarcerated behind it. It's just, and then what happens? They start using because they don't have their kids. It just spirals and it gets worse and worse and worse.
Thank you for that, Q. Thank you for that.
And you know, before I got out, I was in the substance abuse program in Springer. I was a mentor in there, and one of the things that I would tell them was that no matter what happens while you're on probation parole, don't use, and give yourself that chance to get through that and see what your life looks like at the end of it. And if you love where you're at, and stay there. But if you choose to use them, but to at least give yourself the chance. And again, I think a lot of women pick up child abuse charges and stuff like that, and that's due to the fact that they have their kids with them when they OD. That happened to me. I didn't get convicted of any child charges, but I was definitely charged with them and investigated. And I wasn't abusing my children. I overdosed on drugs because, the men don't watch the kids. They're the ones that leave. So we're left there in our addiction, no one there to save us. Not that, we should save ourselves, but I just think, it's really sad what's going on. And all I can say is I wish everybody could see what I see now, like my life is precious and I have a future, and every single one of us do. And I think it's up to everybody, government and everything else, to really try to get to the root of the problem. And it comes down to your mental health. You have to take care of your mental health. I go to therapy, I take my psych meds. A lot of people have a preconceived notion about psych meds, that I'm switching street drugs for a psychiatric medication. They don't understand, like, the generational curse, or it is passed down. Mental illness is inherited, and it's not something to be ashamed of. And a lot of people think it's something shameful, and it's really not. And it's because if you're taking your medication, seeing your therapist, talking about things, you wouldn't fall into that deep depression where you feel hopeless and you just want to get high to numb it. If you, even with the police, what's going on with the movement and everything, if they would evaluate the police once a year or something like that to see their mental state, because they see stuff and they become jaded and bitter, and they become violent, and they become, pieces of shit, and no one's checking their mental well-being, every so often, to make sure there's not somebody that's going to go out and do something violent to somebody else, putting them in a position of power. And even me being on drugs and going out and committing an act of violence and then winding up in prison, like, if my mental health would have been addressed prior to everything when I was in my addiction, if I would have somehow, they have that Kendra's law. My grandmother fought for Kendra's law while I was in the process of going to prison. She went and did something with the governor or somebody in Santa Fe. It was in the newspaper. But there's 48 states that have Kendra's law, and New Mexico's not one of them. And what Kendra's law does is allows for your neighbors, the whoever, your employer, anybody, that if they're seeing signs of some mental unstableness or whatever, they can call the police. And especially if you've already been diagnosed already, they can call the police and you'll be taken in for a mental evaluation and then put on your proper medication. And then, so like if we would have had that law, instead of the police they came and they saw me, I was coherent, I was talking to them, they said, oh, well, we can't take her, she's not doing anything. But my grandmother called because I was acting crazy, I was out of my mind. But I didn't get taken in and evaluated because there's no law or rule to, make that happen. I think that would help, if they pass that law in New Mexico as well. But there's a lot of things that can be done. But I think it really starts with the mental health, and then getting the rehab centers, and then really, and I don't know where it starts and who it starts with, but I hope I can help people one day. Stop that.
Honestly, Stacy, I think it starts at the beginning and the end. I mean, at the beginning of the first time that a woman is incarcerated and at the end, because when we all go in there, there's a moment where we just have that glimpse of hope and we want to change, even though we know that we can, or situations cause us to not be able to. We still have that glimpse, and at the end as well. At the end, is so many women who got all these high hopes they're gonna go out and do this, but when they get out, it's nothing like what they tell you in prison. They tell you, oh, you're gonna go out and be great, just like the teachers used to tell us when we was in kindergarten, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do we say? Doctors, firefighters, you know what I mean? But when reality sink in and walking out of those doors, what is the first thing that happens when you get out? They give you your kids. You go to a place where you uncomfortable and you don't even know if you're wanted, or you don't have nothing. You know what I mean? You go in a size 9 and you come out a size 15. Like, it's a struggle trying to come out. And so having those resources at the beginning and the end, and having somebody there to say, hey, I'm here with you, I think that is the best thing, because anybody with credentials, a counselor, a therapist, they cannot tell me what to do with my life if you ain't lived it. You can't sit here and tell me that sitting on this curb is okay if you ain't never sat here. You can't tell me how it feel to come down and you don't know how your kids gonna eat. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about the whole situation.
Thank you, Q. Thanks to everybody. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for sharing. All right, so we must help our women. Let me see what we got next. 80% of the women who will go to jail this year are mothers, including nearly 150,000 women who are already pregnant when they were admitted into jail or prison. Jails will separate 2.3 million mothers from their children this year. Beyond having to leave their children in someone else's care, these women will be impacted by the needlessly brutal side effects of going to jail. Aggravation of mental health problems, what we've been talking about, a greater risk of suicide, and a much higher likelihood of ending up homeless or deprived of essential financial benefits. I mean, all of this has happened to me. All right, go ahead and go to the next one. All right. It's time we recognize that when we put women in jail, we inflict potentially irreparable damage to their families. Most women who are incarcerated would be better served through alternatives in their communities, and so with their kids. And Jessamine kind of touched on that. Cleveland, you kind of touched. Shaleka, getting the benefits from the beginnings. And what are some examples of alternatives to incarcerations? We talked about rehabs, sober living homes. What else? Diversion programs, kind of what so many of you took the Real Talk curriculum in prison. So that's kind of what we want to use as a diversion program for the kids, for the women who are on probation or parole so they don't get violated. And, and then later on, we could talk a little bit more about, because I believe Vicky and Shaleka have an anti-bullying campaign. So that's another thing. Having an anti-bullying campaign is an example of alternative to incarceration. Because when you're being a bully, eventually you're gonna end up in trouble.
And if I could add, Stacy, hi, this is Carissa. I also believe that an alternative to incarceration starts in the homes. I believe that, we've been talking about how women, the reason why they've been arrested more is because they've had to go out and hustle and get their money because, the fathers aren't around to help raise their kids. But I think that we can even dig a little bit deeper than that. And we can ask, especially in light of what we're seeing today with the police brutality, we know that families are broken up because one parent, is incarcerated or, struggling with substance use disorders or what have you, and they end up incarcerated. So, I mean, if we are separating our families because, maybe they don't have the education that they need, or they don't have the resources in their community, or they are just not supported, or they are targeted by police. They are being targeted by police. I feel that, the alternative to all of that could be to start by getting it back in the homes, providing parenting classes. I feel like this generation, the millennials, it's young kids raising young kids, it's kids having kids, and we have a younger generation raising kids, and I don't feel that they've had enough education on, you know, how to parent or ways that they can cope, or you know, dealing with stressors of life, and helping them with employment and furthering their education. I feel that if we get back into the homes and start there, that our communities are going to see a better outcome. And I think that that's a smart alternative to incarceration.
I agree. Anybody else? What y'all think?
I think that, like, when I first got out of prison, I have to tell you all that I came out of the mud, honestly. Like, when I got out, I didn't have a wardrobe or a big warm welcome from my family. I got out to go into my Destiny program, which was riddled with a drug dealer. Everybody strung out on drugs. There was no house mom. There was no structure. There was nothing. I left there 9 days later, went to my grandmother's house. I didn't get money. I didn't get a wardrobe. I didn't get a new pair of shoes. I don't know. It made me work harder. I also have to say, I wanted to go back in so bad. In those first 6 months I was out, it was so hard. It was so hard. But I stuck with it and I did it. And, now here I am. I'm in school. I work full time. I have a brand new car. I have my own place. I'm doing well, but it was not easy. It was not easy. I definitely think that there needs to be more help from, if Donald Trump can just print these stimulus checks and just print this money out, I don't understand why they can't put a program or two up to help people, especially, reintegrating back into society. It's not cool. Yeah. But I commend everybody here that's gotten out and made it, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
Right, Desmond. It's not easy. It's not easy. And Carissa, I wanted to say something about what you said about with the families and stuff. And also, with that being said, these courts, we have to start either working with the courts or something, because these courts have to be held responsible for breaking up families and keeping families apart as well. And when I can say keeping families apart, separating women from their children, I know this to be true because it happened to me. So that's something we need to look into, because that could be potentially devastating, because it was devastating for me, because they took all of my rights, and basically because I had been to prison, when I was in prison, I was like, oh, they don't do that. When the women used to come in there and say, oh, I was like, yeah, whatever, yeah, they do that. So that's another thing, because when you keep people away from their children, I mean, what else they supposed to do? They're going to want to relapse. They're going to want to commit a crime, maybe even commit suicide. So you're right. So we need to start working on families and getting back to family structure and what it is, what family's all about and all that. All right. I'm going to go to the next one.
I wanted to say something real quick, kind of touching on that. Within the family, I feel like if you show people something different, they'll know that there's other things out there. If you grow up in a hood and the only thing you see every day of your whole life is a drug dealer, an addict, or the jail life, you know that those three things are something that are not abnormal to you, and it's nothing, or there's beyond, but it doesn't seem obtainable to you. So if you start taking the families or working with the families of the women that are incarcerated, thank God I have my mom and my sister, but I was able to see something different, and so were my kids. See that women are in these types of careers, and that there are these other types of resources, and then you start to begin to educate yourself. So, like, when I got out, before I went in, I worked at Citibank and things like that. So I thought immediately when I got out, I'll be able to go back into the same fields. And when I started applying, the first thing that I kept getting was denied. If I was a drug dealer, I would have instantly reverted back to selling drugs, because I wasn't able to feed my kids. And if I was a person who lived in a neighborhood where it was less fortunate, I probably would have reverted back to what everyone around me was doing. But if you take these people and you show them other other things and other options and other women that are like them, then they won't feel alone. And maybe that would be an alternative to being incarcerated. Because hey, as hard as I can hustle on this corner, it's as hard as I can hustle into this hair. As hard as I can hustle into these eyelashes. As hard as I can hustle into whatever business you want to do. But you just have to teach them that same hustle can be put and applied into something else. And I think that's where the bridge is being broken there, because no one is there to teach these people that there's other ways to hustle that aren't going to land you back in jail. Because I'm going to feed my kids by any way necessary. But I also know that there are positive ways to do such things. And if we're able to kind of educate each individual family in these neighborhoods and areas and plant those types of resources there, then it'll kind of, I think it will help redirect a whole lot. And especially starting with the kids, they're able to see different, and then that cycle begins to be broken. That's all.
Oh my gosh, really good. Let me say this. Okay. So the other day I was telling Carissa, how I thought about, right? Because I'm the drug dealer and I'm without a job. So I have thought about selling drugs. But somebody has shown me different. When I went up to UNM Echo and I seen Carissa, what is it that you do? I'm a community health worker. How do I do this? And I am now that, you know what I mean? So even though I'm jobless and I've thought about it, I have so many different skill sets, you know what I mean, that I could get a job somewhere if I want to, you know what I mean? It's just a matter of going to go get it. Do I want to go do that? Blah, 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 blah. So you're right, showing someone different, I look at Quiva and I'm like, I always brag about Q. I always tell people how much money you make. Because I want them to know, like, look, and I see if they can do it, I know I could do it. I talk to you and you tell me about your business, what you got going on. Look at your mom with the anti-bullying campaign, and I'm listening to Jessamine. Like, I am so proud of you girls. And then Holly's over here working at the prison. I'm like, wow, okay. So you're right. This is what showing these girls something different is all about, giving them alternatives. Because trust me, I have thought about it. But I can look at y'all and I can look at the things I have done, and I know that I don't have to do that. I don't have to go there. But not everybody knows that. Until the women in the community can see women like us, you know what I mean? They're not going to know they can do different. So thank you guys for that.
Yes, I agree, Stace. I agree, Shalika. I commend you for saying that. I don't know if you see me, girl. I was over here like, yes. So those are called transferable skills. And when I work with the parents that I work with, that's what I tell them. So as much power as you gave to beat your feet, to go out and do this and do that and score, let's get that same power to go get an application. And not only am I going to tell you to do it, I'm going to show you how to do it. And I'm going to go with you. You know what I mean? And a lot of people laugh at me because I always post pictures of the beach. But if those of you who done time with me, where did I say I was going when I was getting out? I said I was going to that water. Yeah, and by any means necessary, I made sure I made it. But I made sure I made it in a way to where not only was I making it for myself, but for everybody who believed in me. Because I wanted them to see that these are the steps to get to what you want. And it's not about, spending money or anything like that. It's about the goals that you put in your head for yourself. And if that water is what it is, that's what it is. If you buying your kids some new clothes, if that's the goals that you have, them the goals that you have, use those goals. And I mean, you are so on point, Shaleka, when you said that. I mean, showing them something different. And I think I work in the environment of children's court, and so I see this every day with moms having to be torn apart from their children and how it affects them and how it creates a cycle to where them kids grow up and they don't know how to parent. And so guess what happened? They go in foster care and then they lose their kids as well. And so it's hard to say what is needed. I can only say what I can do with you right now. I can show you, you know what I mean? This is what it is. This is what you can do. But I don't really know. Like I see it every day, and it's a sad thing. And I try my hardest to make sure I intervene and I try to support the women. But it's hard when that's all they've known. And they've seen their grandma do it. They've seen their great grandma do it. They've seen their mama do it. And so now they doing it. And it's a custom. Like I said earlier, A lot of women don't know life skills. A lot of women don't know how to do dishes because they was never taught that. That's just like showing them something better. You know what I mean? We all have our own levels of a clean house, but what do we say? What do we say when somebody's house is dirty? You can't say that your house is dirty because that's my standard. I can't, with the way that you was raised, that may be clean to you. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do we get them to the point to where we think is appropriate for them to be and not where we feel is appropriate? Because it's a fine line saying, oh, this is good and this is bad. But you don't want to mix somebody up and say, this is where you're supposed to be. Because just because where I work at doesn't mean that I'm good. That just means that I just been busting my butt. I mean, I just like Jessamine, I started out the mud. You know what I mean? I was cleaning rooms. But at the same time, I don't want to tell somebody, oh, yeah, girl, you can work for the court too. Because it's not that easy. So how do we give them that inspiration without tearing them down at the same time? I don't want to tell somebody you can be president and forget the A through C steps.
I mean, you got to be realistic with your ideas too. You know, I want to be a nurse, but can I be one? If I go to school, I'm taking on a chance that I might get denied, right? So I need to be realistic about what I want to do. And you know what I mean? Like, come on, Stacy, you might, but then again, you might not be able to. Are you able to do that? Right. So we just gonna try to be realistic, set goals so we can get there. All right. So what is the school to prison pipeline? The school to prison pipeline is a process through which students are pushed out of schools and into prisons. In other words, it is a process of criminalizing youth that is carried out by disciplinary policies and practices within schools that put students into contact with law enforcement. Go ahead to the next slide. In 2015, nearly 53,000 youth were incarcerated. 4,656 of those were held in adult facilities, while the rest were in juvenile facilities. Of those in juvenile facilities, 69% were 16 or older, while over 500 were 12 or younger. Who's getting arrested? So, Black youth comprised 14% of the national youth population. 43% of boys were Black youth. 34% of girls were Black. 1.5% of boys were American Indian, and 3% of girls were American Indian. Black and American Indian youth are overrepresented in juvenile facilities, while white youth are underrepresented. How can we help our youth? How can we help our youth? We know that, take the state of New Mexico, I think we're either 2 or 3% of the population. We know that more Black youth get suspended and expelled from schools than anybody. We know that in these small towns, I believe either Clovis or Hobbs, that they lock up more Black female youth than anyone for things like drinking and skipping school. They also lock up more Black people, period, out here. So they just locking up people, locking up these youth. So how can we help our youth? What's going on? Is something going on at home? Parents not there, or you're muted, Shalika. You're muted, Shalika.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. My phone is tripping. But mentoring them. And then that's kind of what we do, because you do have to start with the youth, and you have to kind of look at the family background on them. Because if you have a parent that is involved with you, you're less likely to skip school. You're less likely to try to do those things. And I'm not saying that Black parents aren't involved, but if we are the most being incarcerated or targeted and things like that, like CYFD cases, I've seen that, you know, it's harder for us to discipline our kids without CYFD being called. When I got out of prison, I spanked one of my sons, and he went to the school and said that his mama beat him. And he, mind you, was a problem child, but the school was like, oh no, we know the mom, blah, 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 blah. But the counselor did press the issue and made it to where I almost felt like, dang, did I whip my kid that bad? Or, I started to question myself and question the discipline there. And so now we're not able to discipline our kids, and we need to figure out like sometimes, well, here in Texas, they're okay with it. But I know that in New Mexico, it's a little harder. You're more likely to get a child abuse charge just for a typical spanking than you would be anywhere else. And that's where we kind of have to, maybe link with CYFD and see, what are the things they're looking for with that, because we're not able to discipline our kids, and look where our kids are going. So I guess it would be, my theory would be working with CYFD on things like that, instead of, just like, oh, well, I told him, I tried to tell him. But I mean, when we were getting spankings back in the days, we thought about a lot of things twice. If not, you didn't even have to think about it, because you knew that there were repercussions at home, and you knew that, hey, if I do this, then, and the community has to be involved with the kids too, because it really does take a village to raise kids. When we were younger, if we crossed that main road that says our Chavez, we would have Mr. So-and-so over here calling my grandpa, letting them know that, hey, the girl's kids is over here. And we have to do more of community involvement with these kids, instead of more people. My generation is like, hey, don't tell my kid nothing, or don't talk to my kid like that, or don't discipline this, or don't, it's, I guess, trying to do more community awareness things with the youth would be the best thing for the youth to stop that cycle. Long story short.
Thank you, Shalika. Anybody else have any input on that? Here.
So, Shalika, if you're ever interested in that is actually what I do. I go in, I tell CYFD what they can do to better help families. I would love for you to sit on a panel with me, and you could tell your story if that's okay. You can always reach out to me. And if any of you feel like that is something that you have questions about, because I feel the same way. You know what I mean? My kid is accident prone, and she falls at school, and they still call me like it's my fault. So I'm with Shalika, and I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Or if I pop her one time, was she gonna go tell the school? And then by me being Black, the counselor, just like Shalika, the counselor called me during the COVID. We was at home, and she wanted to do a home visit. When I denied it, the principal called me, and I went off. I said some things to her, but I thought it was a little inappropriate because my kid is so accident prone. We just wanted to make sure she was okay. Well, do you call everybody in the school to see if they okay? You know what I mean? So I totally agree with Shalika. With the youth, I don't know. The youth the youth is so impressionable now. It's like whoever's the top, whoever's doing the most outrageous, the most glamorous and most attention, and it's hard to reach out to somebody who's looking for attention, and not the kind of attention that you can give them as far as being positive. You know what I mean? But if it's doing something inappropriate or jumping off a building onto a skateboard or something like that, they're with it. So how do we, I'm with that question. Like, I don't know how to talk to youth, because what the world has told them is that it's okay to act like this. There's no consequences. We're going to sit you down. We're going to say, are you okay? Is everything okay? And then we're going to leave you alone because we can't touch you. We can't call anybody. You know what I mean? So.
I wanted to share, this is Carissa, because Q, you're speaking like exactly what I feel. My wife is she's a principal of a behavioral health program over here in Albuquerque, and she works with middle schoolers. And I mean, I commend her every day, because I know I'd be beating some of these kids' butts for sure, because they will cuss you out, they will kick you, they will spit at you, they will talk crazy, call you out your name. It's things that I personally didn't grow up with. I grew up in a neighborhood where you were going to get beatings at school, at home, and then like at home again. And that's just the way that it was. And like you're saying, we can't discipline our kids the way that we grew up being disciplined. I believe that the burden still falls to us, though, to make sure our kids have their needs met. If they feel that, they like the loud attention, because I'm not hip, I'm not savvy with the trends of the kids today. My wife is way more hip than I am, but she has gotten down on their level because that's the language that they speak. And I know growing up, I would always say that my mother never understood me. Kids feel like their parents never understand them. And it's because they don't. They're in a generation that they don't understand that. They didn't understand my language as a child. So I think it's important that we have the kids at the table. I love, Shaleka, your idea of mentorship. I think mentorship is amazing. And I think it's even more powerful when a youth is leading youth. If we can find those children in our communities that are strong leaders, they just have the knack for that. I feel like their voices need to be at the table. And instead of trying to think that we know it all, and I sure as heck don't know it all. I need the youth to guide me so that I can guide other youth in the right way. So I think that one of the ways we can help them is to bring them to the table.
So, hey, Carissa, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, Holly.
Okay. So this is Holly. I want to tag on to kind of what you said, Carissa, because when I got locked up, my son was 15. So he didn't have his mom, and his dad was off in the wind with whoever he felt like he wanted to run around with at that time. So my son basically was told, you either go live with your grandma or you're SOL at 15. So my son dropped out of high school as a senior, tested, got his GED, and then started a program in New Mexico called the Wellness Coalition, and it was just for youth at the age of 17. And he still does it today here in Arizona. But what he does is he goes around to the schools and finds out which ones are the teens that y'all feel need more mentoring, more guidance. Basically, which kids are always getting in trouble, right? So what they did was they started working with him, and what he started to do was be a mentor to these kids. And my son is a hotshot, and by the way, he's in New Mexico fighting the wildfires. What he did was he started this grant with the Wellness Coalition, and he would take no more than 7 kids at a time for 5 days out into the wilderness and teach them skills of what could cause a fire, how do you keep, the underbrush. But not only that, at nighttime when they're sitting around at night with the campfire, they were doing schoolwork and talking about, what's going on in your life, why are you acting out, talk to me, let me help you, let me tell you where I came from to where I'm at now, let me see if I can give you some tools to help you, achieve what you want to do in your goals in your life. There's a bunch in Silver City, New Mexico, there's a bunch of kids that love to skateboard, and they had a rinky-dink skate park that was built out of wood. So what he did was he got with a local or a guy out of California that's a professional skateboarder, got him to come down, help him design a brand new skate park. They have in-ground pool skate park where it's just got all the bells and the whistles, and the kids are still out there and they keep it clean. They're not tagging it. He says, if I do this, you gotta come out here at least once a week, pick up the garbage, clean it. If you see tagging, let's paint it. This is for you guys. It's not for me, it's for you. Even though he loves skateboarding, he's like, this is for you, it's not for me. So they're teaching them, it snows up in the mountains, so all the water pressure is coming down, how much water pressure, it's schooling at the same time. So he still does that here in Arizona on his own time. He goes by the schools and tells them, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm a hot shot. I'm firefighting. I want to work with the troubled kids. And he hates calling them troubled kids. He just said, what he tells them is, I want to work with the misguided kids. Give me some kids that you feel like need more mentorship, needs more guidance. Let me have them. Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can remold them, give them some tools. They may not be getting the tools at home. They may feel like, mom doesn't care, dad doesn't care, but I care. Let me help them. So I feel like you're right, Chris. So we need more kids, because my son will be 30 next month, so he's not considered a kid anymore. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is he's been working with so many youths that he's got kids now that have become mentors to their friends and other schools. So it's just got to be, we've got to find those right kids that want to step up and have a voice and not feel like, oh, because I'm doing this, I'm going to be called a geek or what, you know what I mean? So that's what we need to focus on for the youth. Because we can sit there as adults, all of us, and tell them what's right, what's wrong. But half the time they're not going to listen to, you know, mom or dad or aunt or uncle or, you know, Chris, as you being a friend, you know, my son may not have listened to you what's right and what's wrong. You know what I mean? But it takes another youth to be like, whoa, wait, come on. You know, let's try to rethink how we're doing this. Let's, you know, figure something out.
I agree. I agree. Okay, well, does that wrap it up, Chris? Are we at the end of our time, or we still got more time, or are we at the end of what?
Yeah, no, that's the end of the time for our presentation. I think that was good. And now I just we have time saved for an open mic where women who want to either share with us something that they would like to learn about or hear about, what they'd like to see in their communities, and any stories from or lived experiences that we can learn from. It's called open mic.
Vicky, are you still on? Is she still on? Vicky? No?
No, Vicky signed off.
All right. Anybody?
So I just want to say this is Holly, my new adventure, because I was working for La Frontera Behavioral Health Services as a recovery coach and the intense outpatient treatment coordinator. But who would have thought that somebody that did almost 8 years in prison would actually be working for Arizona Department of Corrections within the next week?
Congratulations.
Thanks. I've actually stepped into a position that is what is called the peer support coordinator. So I will be in charge of the whole Southern Arizona. There'll be 4 prisons. 2 are women and 2 are men. And underneath me, I'll have a team like Project Echo in a sense. We go in and they, you know, of course it's up to the prison who they pick for the classes, just like they did us. But we're teaching them skills so when they get out, they will actually have an Arizona state license number to bill for insurances, but they can get a job being a felon at any behavioral health or integrated medical facility as a recovery support specialist. And that's what Arizona is pushing for the hardest, is to get them trained, get them knowledge, get them to feel confident and feel good about themselves to come out. They may not exactly get a job right away. I know when I first got out, I worked at a nursing home as housekeeping. Then I, you know, I worked at Family Dollar as a cashier. You know what I mean? I got a lot of no's before I got that 1 or 2 yes. But to just keep encouraging them. You might get a no. You might get a no at Cope Community Services, but La Frontera might give you a yes. And what they do is it's kind of like a mentor program. They go in, I just had somebody that got out of prison, 2 weeks ago. She got hired where I work at La Frontera at $15 an hour to come in, and she's working closely with me. And what happens is I give her 5 or 6 clients that I feel like their addiction, they need a little bit more weekly support. You just that phone call. Hey, how you doing? What's been going on? They go to their homes and help them, as you know, Q was talking about. Your clean may not be my clean, but we're going to go in and at least show you how to spray a counter down and wipe it off and clean it. They go in and show them how to, you know, mop a floor, sweep a floor. But that's what a recovery support specialist is. They go in and give them not only job skills, but life skills. But here they are coming out of prison and they feel self-satisfying because they're like, wow, I could have been doing this all along. And the recidivism, we're hoping this will keep it down. They're not going to keep going in and out like a revolving door, right? So for me, I'm just like overwhelmed with happiness that I'm actually now going to be able to give back to them what Project Echo and Jay gave to me, along with, you know, working really closely with like Stacy and Carissa and Cece and, you know, all of us from Project Echo, you know, with the Real Talk program too, because, you know, Chris, I'm plugging some of that in there. We need to talk about it. So, but the thing about it is it's just, I don't know, it's mind blowing.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Holly. And that's a powerful story. And that's what we need to be hearing more of. We need to hear women who overcome their past, no matter what it is, and they rise up. And then once they get there, they make sure that they reach back and help those that are also trying to get to the top. So I love that. That's what's up. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Holly.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Molly. Congratulations, Holly. I work at CNM, Central New Mexico Community College. I teach there, and I also am a sustainability leader. And sorry, my dog is barking. I gotta let him out here real quick, or whining. So because of my own history, I was a juvenile delinquent. I grew up in a drug house. I had a lot of obstacles to overcome in Minneapolis, and I speak at new student orientation and talk about the issues I've had to overcome in my life. And I believe that a lot of students there are on probation, and one of the reasons that they are at the community college is because they're on probation. And I've had to sign a lot of, I don't know what they're called, the slips that people come in, that are on probation, to make sure that they were in class that day and things like that. So I think that I don't know if there is a way that I could continue that type of work, but make it more comprehensive and include some of the things that you're talking about here in this group. And even instead of myself, I'm white, I'm sort of an outlier. I don't really look like a lot of people in the room a lot of the time here. And my story is my story, but I don't know if the connections are always made with the people that might need to hear it most, because I don't look like them. And I think that means a lot. And so I'm wondering if there is some way to connect this group with the community college in some capacity in this storytelling kind of way, because I think that stories are probably the most powerful things that we have. And I don't know how to do that or how to connect this group with the community college, but I would like to learn how to do that. And if anyone has any ideas, please let me know, and I'll do my best to make those connections.
Can I just say one thing before y'all give her the connections? Because I know y'all about to.
Yes.
I just want you to know that none of us look like what we've been through. And I say this all the time when I tell my story, and me, Carissa, and Stacy was just talking about this, because when they think people coming out of prison or jail, they think they're supposed to have teardrops and tattoos across our neck, and that's this picture they put in their head. You know what I mean? And when I say that I've done all this time and I've did all all this history and all these charges I have, people would just be like, oh wow, you know what I mean? But I'm okay with that, because then that means when you first saw me, you didn't think I was about that life, but I am. But I've changed and I'm growing. But I'm here to say that it's possible. You know what I mean? So don't ever feel like you don't fit the description, because you do. And that's what people want to see. People want to see somebody with their head up and they got confidence and they doing good for themselves, and they making moves in their community and they giving back. You know what I mean? And then once that power comes out of their mouth and they stand on their truth, that's what matters the most. It's not about what you look like or do you fit the description. Girl, you is doing what you need to do.
I second that.
Thank you for that so much. Thank you.
I'm third in that one.
Even connecting us, even trying to make that connection for the students is doing your part, is what you're doing. And that is so great. And we will thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for sharing with us. And yes, we would love to connect with your students. However, we'll try to make that happen. I think the best way to go live, it's always better to hear a story live. That way they can ask questions. And please, you can refer anybody to the group, Longest Woman. We would love to have anybody. So thank you. Carissa, you want to speak on that about anything?
What? Yeah, are you kidding me? CNM and being able to go in and tell our stories live. Yes, there's so many things that are popping in my mind. I've done a couple so far. I've done a few interviews with women who have been impacted. It's on a YouTube channel. We'll connect that. I mean, we've even done, I think our first session was the power of storytelling. We went over that. So we're all on board with that. And we have powerful stories, but what makes them so powerful is when they become relatable. And I know that there's so many people who have kindred spirits, like Q was saying. You might not look at us at first and think, oh wow, yeah, I can relate to her, or you know, she understands what I'm going through. But as soon as we start telling our stories, there that fire goes and that connection is made. And then that's when we start to really build our community. So if there's any way that we could meet Molly afterwards, you know, so we can talk a little bit more in depth about that, we would love to do that, because we're already right there with you about sharing your story. We know the power of it. So if we can meet afterwards, we stay in contact. I got your email now, and we'll just keep building this connection. And that's awesome. I'm so excited about that. I did want to say, for everybody that's joining us right now, please make sure that you talk about this with the women in your lives. You know, if you know a woman and she knows you, then she's been indirectly impacted by the criminal justice system. That's what we mean when we open it up. You don't have to be the one that's behind bars to relate to this. We're going to have some speakers come on and talk about the effects that incarceration has on those who are not behind bars. You know, we're going to open this up to any woman really who has some type of connection to it. So spread the word. Make sure that they know that it's the first and third Monday of every month that we will be meeting from 1:30 to 3 o'clock. This is a sister circle for a reason, because Stacy and I, and Holly, you definitely can chime into this. We know the power of being able to connect with one another and watch each other rise, because that's how we start to build our confidence and being able to see that. So we're all about the women. I mean, feminism is a strong core of what we do. We love the counterparts. Go men. I'm a lesbian, but whatever. I mean, you guys cheer them on. That's good for you. But men are important. They are. But in our opinion, women are the core of the family, of our communities, and really of our economy. We know that women have so much value, and we want to lift each other up. So please spread the word for that. But that's the only announcements that I have. It was amazing seeing everybody on. I love the participation. Stacy, you killed it on that presentation. Thank you so much for sharing the stats. PowerPoint is going to be made available to everyone, and I'll send that out later. But that's all I got to say, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank everyone. I think we have 7 minutes. Anybody got anything else?
I just want to thank you again for holding this. I know it's really hard to be vulnerable, and I appreciate, you know, I haven't personally been through the criminal justice system, but I do appreciate all the stories and me coming in as a listener. So I appreciate everything that you've done, and you all are brave and strong, and I'm just rooting for all of you. So thank you so much. And Stacy, I mean, I've seen you grown. I remember you were coming in right out of the criminal justice system. Me and Krista, we were teaching you what the CHW course, and it's really great. So thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome, Asia, and thank you. Yeah, because you played a good role in my life, and for not judging me and for being there for me. So thank you, and thank you for joining. You don't even know how much I appreciate this. All right, I think that might be it. Okay, all right. Until next time, ladies. We'll talk to y'all.
It'll be July 6th. July 6th.
Oh, wait, yeah. We are going to have Dr. What's her name?
Lisa Taylor.
Lisa Taylor. Dr. Lisa Taylor. She's going to come on and do some type of presentation. She's a nurse practitioner. So it's going to be geared towards women. So this is going to be great. It's going to be about women's health, some type of women's health. So let everybody know they'll have an opportunity to ask her questions. Any type of question you want to ask her, she can answer. She'll answer it. She'll answer the questions, her expertise. So Dr. Lisa Taylor.
Good night.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
All right, bye.
It was good seeing you guys. Take care.
Take care.
Stay up.
You look awesome.
That's amazing. Good job, ladies. See you later. The hub team, please stay on for us. Holly, Q, Stacy.
I am. There's one more person. Is Molly, you still on there?
No.
Okay. Oh, it's 4 of us. Okay.
Yeah, I was kicking people
Good
off.
job, ladies. Good job. Unmute your thing, Q. Okay.
You did an awesome job, Stacy.
I think we all did. It was great.